touring our Windows 10 interface, we went along the taskbar and we talked about the start menu, talked about Cortana, talked about task view. Next to task view is this little blue E here. Do you recognize that?
That's Internet Explorer.
It used to be Internet Explorer. Now, if I mouse over it, you see it tells me that it's now Microsoft Edge.
Wait a minute.
No, it's true.
Huh. It's, I guess it's an E. It's like an eye test, because E is the eye test. And because you got to look hard to tell that's a different. It's got a little slice on the left.
It's a little different. You have to look close to see it.
Too old to see it. But anyway.
So since 1995, since Windows 95, Microsoft has included Internet Explorer with Windows. That was the default web browser. That's how you browse the Internet, unless you added another program like Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox or even Apple's Safari. Internet Explorer was the most popular way to get around, but it's not always been the best. Microsoft, for a long time in the 1990s and the early 2000s, made Internet Explorer different. In fact, in some cases, it was so different that a lot of websites have to build two versions of the website. One version for Internet Explorer and one version for everybody else.
I see.
The flip side is there are some websites that only work on Internet Explorer. This is especially true of some government websites. With Windows 10, Microsoft is ditching a lot of that baggage by making an entirely new Internet browser. Now, Internet Explorer is still there because you do still need it for certain websites. But now, by default, we have Microsoft Edge.
Edge.
The nice thing about Edge is it's very fast, it's very modern, it's very secure. Notice that it started up pretty quickly. By default, it gives me this start screen. Now, normally with a web browser, you have a home screen that you can choose. Edge doesn't like you to choose your own home screen. There is a way to do it if you dig into the settings, but they want you to start with this start screen. So if I'm looking for something, if I'm looking for Andy Offit Irwin, is that okay?
Oh, sure.
I type it in, it does a Bing search, and there I can find out more about Andy Offit Irwin, a guy who looks surprisingly like you.
That's a really young picture, but yeah.
So it works just like you'd expect an internet browser to work. At the top here, I have my address bar. So if I want to go somewhere else, if I want to go to Google, for example, I can do that. I have back and next buttons. I have a reload button. This button right here tells me if I'm on a secure site or not. If it's a secure site, it's a padlock that's locked. If it's not, it's a padlock that's open. I can add things to my favorites. So if I want to go back and I want to go to your site, and I want to make it one of my favorites.
You're going to make me one of your favorites?
It is one of my favorites.
Oh, thank you.
It's a lovely picture, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
This star right here is what makes it a favorite. So I can click on that.
Let's see.
Give it a name. I can take the default name, choose add, and now it's saved. So if I'm back on my start page and I click on the hub, it gives me 4 tabs. Now the default tab it opened is the reading list. If I'm on certain articles, there's a reading list button that'll light up. I can choose that. It'll add it to the reading list so I can come back and read it later. Where I put yours was under favorites. That's the star. And you can see there's your site right there. So I can click on that and it'll take me back to your site. If I go back to the hub, you can see I've also got my history. So I can see all the websites we've been to today. And I can see anything that I've downloaded. I haven't downloaded anything today, so there's nothing there. If I want to keep this open all the time, I can choose this thumbtack to keep it pinned open. But that probably takes up a lot of screen space, so I'll get rid of that. So for the most part, Edge works just like a regular internet browser. You browse to web pages, you see the web pages. If I want to have more tabs open, I can click this little plus button up here, open a second tab. I can type in the website that I want to go to. So let's say I want to go to Wikipedia. And it gives me some suggestions. I'll choose this one. Now I have Wikipedia in one tab. I have your site in another tab. And one of the interesting things about Edge, it's got 2 features that no other web browser has currently. One is it's integrated with Cortana. Remember Cortana was our virtual assistant?
Yeah.
Let's say that you and I are thinking about going to lunch, and we're thinking about going to lunch at a place called Suma Joe's.
Okay.
If I type in the name of the restaurant, it's going to do a search just like any browser would.
Right.
If I click on the site, notice Cortana's little symbol popped up here.
Oh, look at her.
And she says, I've got directions, hours, and more. So if I click on Cortana, So what it's done is it's pulled information from Yelp, from Urban Spoon, from Foursquare to let me know where the restaurant is, something about their hours, hopefully accurate, something about their menu, their price range. And if I scroll down, I can actually read reviews. Looks like a pretty good place, might be a good place to go for lunch.
Yeah.
And I can get directions by clicking here. So Cortana is built in. That's kind of an extra assistant. Only works on certain sites. It's particularly good for restaurants. It's good for certain types of businesses.
If they have Yelp and all that stuff.
Exactly. They have to have those
Around
built
Me
in.
and all those. Yeah.
Exactly. Another thing that's pretty good is let's go back to your site. Let's say, and I'm going to go ahead and make this full screen. Let's say that you're working with a web designer and you want to make some changes to your site and you're trying to explain to them what you want changed and they don't quite understand what you're saying. Edge gives you the ability to mark up the web page right from here and then send a picture of it to a web designer. So I have this little pencil up here. If I click on that, I get some tools. By default, I'm on the pen. So I can say, you know, it's this part right here. It's this part that I'm talking about. This is the part that I want you to change.
Wow.
I've also got a highlighter if I want to go and highlight something. I don't want to be just a musician. I want to be a instrumentalist. Whatever you wanted to make the change, you could do that from here. And then when you're done, you can click on the save button. That'll save it as a picture, and you can then email it to them. Or you can click on share, and that pretty much does the same thing. It'll give you the option to send it through your email or through OneNote. So you could post that as a note in your OneNote if you wanted to.
Oh.
You could do the same thing if you're doing research with somebody. You're researching a certain town or something. You want to block out certain pieces.
Yeah, I was thinking that if you're exactly, or if you're researching something and there's some notes that you're reading that you want to mark. That's pretty handy.
So you could also go to, let's say we wanted to take some notes about Suma Joe's here. I could go to the markup. Let's say I wanted to take a picture of their top menu because I really like it. I could use this little clipping tool and draw a box around it.
Whoa.
And now that's copied to my clipboard. If I go to my email, I could start a message and I could paste that right there inside the message.
Handy.
It is handy. It's some extra little tools that make your life a little easier. The important thing, though, is it works great as a regular web browser. It's fast, it's secure, it's easy to use, and so Edge is the new default browser for Windows 10.
And you can tell that it's the browser because that looks like the Internet Explorer E. You can't fool me.
It's still the blue E.